that's why I wanted to make sure that I took the opportunity to talk about this, because I think that for so many people, and I work with some of those young guys too, and you know, I have a lot of empathy for them because I know what it's like when maybe you don't have those examples, but if you could give it to them, they would be so happy to have those type of folks in their life. So where's like the middle ground? How can we help like incentivize people to know, if I don't have these things, go seek them out? Because there's a lot of things on this platform is about seeking out assistance, seeking out help when you know you're going through difficult times. Because a lot of folks, I'm sure, that watch and listen to this don't come from the most stablest of backgrounds, also do not have a level of comfort in speaking about how they feel. Like I said, a lot of this is focused on men. The vast majority of us are like, we don't talk about it. We just suffer through it.
Yeah, so if something's not going right, you gotta talk. You gotta talk.
Yeah.
You gotta communicate.
Agreed. And that's something like I said, I spent a lot of energy into, but I'm very glad. And I didn't know that you were you were sort of the instigator of communication, which I think is great, because it actually, you are a demonstration that it's not always generational. It may have been, let's say, difficult for a lot of men back then to talk about these things, but clearly, that didn't impact you. It didn't. Let me ask you like one quick follow-up though. Did any part of that come from like your parents in the house? Like, did they create that space for you guys to talk about things from what you recall growing up?
I mean, part of we always sat down and had dinner together, and we kind of continued that, especially like on a Sunday night, and had friends over of the boys and their even girlfriends, and that was always wonderful. But the focus at the table was talk about your day and how are you doing, and it was communication,
right?
And that happened every night. And then, yeah, I was the baby in the family, and there's a lot of times that I got left out on some things, but I'd see my sister, my brother, and mom and dad. It's just, I grew into that.
Yeah,
you got to talk.
Agreed. Again, that's something that I unfortunately, I see a lot of the opposite. I'm glad that it happened, but to me, you're kind of like a case study of why it is important to do that when you're raising children. Again, because then they feel that it is normalized to them. So then it's not a question of should they do it, it is an expectation.
Yeah.
Like I would say for me right now, I know good communication is an expectation of any person that I'm talking to in any capacity in my life.
And sitting down and having dinner and discussions doesn't mean the TV's on,
right? And
everybody's focused on what's going on. It's like occasionally, if it's Super Bowl and you're having people over and you're eating, okay,
sports exceptions.
That's an unusual evening, but not day in and day out.
Right.
Turn that off. And I know it's hard in today's world
with the tech.
The techs, the iPhones, the iPads. Don't bring those to the table, please. But people, you got a question? Let's go look that up.
Let's
Google it. So technology has changed things a bit.
It has.
But you gotta focus on talking.
I agree.
Talking is healthy.
It is. And even what we were saying earlier, like, and I always try to impress this on people, like, no matter how long you're with somebody, or if you're a parent and your child, right? Because I've heard parents say this. I never heard you all say this, but I've heard parents say this, like, I know my child better than he or she knows themselves, right? Like, confidently say that. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I understand you think you know a lot about them, and I don't discredit that idea, but you never know exactly how they feel and how they're thinking. You need them to express that to you, right? And to me, I use that as a different way of saying the same point, whether it's your partner, whether it's your kid, whether it's just somebody else that you value. You want to create the space for them to want to tell things to you, right? You want to be, that's why I was saying what I said about you two earlier, to be warm and inviting and feel like this is more or less a conflict-free area. Why? Because it makes it easier to let those things out. If you're worried about your parents arguing, if you're worried about, do we have stability in the home? Do we have lights? Do we have power? Do we have food? If you're worried about people feeling safe, you're not going to talk. It's just a fact. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what family you're born into. You're not going to talk because you don't feel like it's appropriate maybe for you. But when you have all those elements like you two have done, I think it's absolutely possible. and then we get better outcomes for the next generation. Talking about your children and what I'm trying to replicate with my child. So always going back to that fundamental experience. And I think you gave the best example. If you saw it coming up with your parents, you knew what you wanted. So all you focused on was reproducing. Do you feel like that was, I know it wasn't the same for you because you didn't feel like you wanted to open up. Do you feel like any part of that had to do with the fact that were your parents open with you, or did they give you all the space to be open at all? From what you recall.
That's kind of a hard question. I mean, they didn't talk about a whole lot of things. So
They were very quiet.
They were very quiet.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And the only reason why I asked is because let me give an example. Let me put the example on me. So with my son, what I think about is when I know all the different challenges that young men have today, right? I try even more directly to create that space for him. So, for example, working on emotional intelligence, helping teach vocabulary, like more words than mad, sad, bad, simplistic things. Let's get more into detail why, because then it helps us understand what's wrong so we can actually do something about it. If everything is very broad in general, like you can't really target anything, so then the kid just feels upset all the time. But I know it is my responsibility to create that environment for him. So what do I have to do? I need to demonstrate what I want to receive. I want him to be open, so what do I have to do as his father? I need to be open. Otherwise, why would he be open? He's like, my dad don't talk to me. Why do I talk to him? How do I know that? Because my father wasn't open with me. Like a lot of fathers are not. You being an exception, sir. So you see that and you're like, well, I can't replicate what I don't know. So if I feel like I'm in this oppressive environment where I'm not supposed to talk about things, then I naturally will not learn how to do that. So I had to learn how to do this through going through a lot of therapy myself to realize that it is okay. Exactly what you said. It is okay. It is appropriate. It is needed. So I work very hard to make sure he knows that and be more intentional. So I hope that kind of tied all that together.